Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pager, here once again with another video on just the Arrowverse and DC TV as a whole, and we are now finished with the CW world of DC TV with the conclusion of Superman and Lois around 2 weeks ago, like just over 2 weeks ago, I think, and are about to move into the new DC universe under the creative influence of James or James Gunn. But with the end of a universe comes reflection, and we have done a video ranking the series finales. That's weird. Anyway, series finales specifically. But in this video, we are going to be talking about the final seasons as a whole, because the quality of one episode can be very different from the rest of that season, or in some cases, maybe be exactly the same and be a perfect summary of that particular season as a whole. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your specific rankings, whether it's all of them, all 8 shows, or just the ones you've watched, or just maybe a top 3. Up to you. As well as any opinions you want to give on my rankings, because there might be some, I'm not too sure. And of course, if you want to drop a like, it takes 2 seconds. So of course, the shows that are going to be included in this are Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Batwoman, Stargirl, and Superman and Lois. Those are the 8 shows in contention, because they obviously had more than one season, and I think all of those are really the shows we consider Arrowverse. But let's get into these rankings. So at number 8, coming in last spot, I guess effectively the worst, if you want to put it, is Supergirl. And I was sort of surprised I have Supergirl in last spot on this list, as I had it at, I think, number 4 on my series finale rankings, and I was like, really, can I have it slide that much? But I knew it wouldn't be as high on this list as that series finale list. But when I sat down and thought about the final season of each of these shows, I think overall it's the worst. It's like all over the place, and just like, I mean, to be honest, it's just not really enjoyable at all. I think I remember having a really tough time with it, which maybe is why the series finale stood out a bit more, because it's actually one of the better, if not best, episodes of the season. Now, one of the big reasons for this in regards to it feeling a bit messy is in regards to like the first half of the season, and this was due to Melissa Benoist, who of course played Supergirl, being absent for a lot of the original filming and having to catch up. From memory, she was on maternity leave. She had given birth in the off season. But this did lead to a pretty out-of-place Phantom Zone storyline, so the rest of the show could film stuff, and she could catch up later, and it just didn't really work. As I said in my series finale rankings, I think the show finishes somewhat strong, but overall it's not a great watch for this final season, and no real highlights. At number 7, I have Black Lightning, and similar to Supergirl, Black Lightning was just messy, and they were just racing to the finish line, like just trying to get it done. Apparently there was like drama behind the scenes with the final season, which probably explains it. But yeah, not much to say outside of it being sort of familiar, or similar, might I say, to Supergirl's final season, and just how it laid that itself out there. But it's just a tiny bit better. I think it had less episodes. That probably helped. At number 6, I have The Flash, or The Flash, whichever way you want to put it. And yeah, we all know what the season, or this final season of The Flash was like, but it has 2 of the best episodes the show ever did in this final season. Like, purely that's why it is higher than Supergirl and Black Lightning. But it also has one of the worst episodes ever. I can't remember what number it was in the season, but once again, like, you'd think it was the episode with, I think, Cecile and Allegra teaming up with Hazard. I think that was it. It was so bad, like holy Reverse Flash, so bad. The first half of this final season mixed with that episode and the death stuff is, oh my god, yeah, it's pretty it's not good. But I think the final, like, or the back half of this final season is pretty good. I think overall the Cobalt Blue storyline is pretty well done. Just the opening of that series finale is just dodgy, which we talked about in detail in the series finale rankings. If the first half of the season was even just okay or mid, this would probably be, I think, at least like number 4 on this list. So thanks, Red Death. Also, thank you, Cecile and Allegra, for that horrible episode. At number 5, we have Legends of Tomorrow, and I am surprised this is as high as on this list, as I honestly don't remember much about it. I remember some like specific episodes, like a handful, but not the entire season. Like, I watched it when it was on, I just can't really remember it. They were like robot clones or something. I know, weird if you haven't watched it. But I just remember it being a very consistent season. It was trying some new stuff as well, but nothing too major of note, but nothing offensive either, which is sort of a surprise with Legends, as they definitely push the boundaries sometimes, but I think this is the right spot for it. And at number 4, I guess just missing out on the top 3, even though I think there's probably a bit of a fall between 3 and 4, but I have Batwoman. And similar to Legend of Tomorrow, Batwoman was just a very consistent season in its final bout, though not planned as its final season, similarly to Legend of Tomorrow, which I forgot to mention. But I do remember, like, a lot of this season, and I think it had some bigger highlights than what we saw in the corresponding season of Legend of Tomorrow. So I think it deserves to be in this spot. Though I wouldn't say it's necessarily a competitive thing leading up outside of the, competitive competition outside of the top 3. And at number 3, just making it in, I have Arrow. And this was one that if you asked me when Arrow ended whether I would, put it in my top 3 final seasons, I probably say no, funnily enough. I love the opening 3 or 3.5, 3, or I put up to 4. So 3 or 4 episodes of Arrow's final season. But after that, it purely turns into setup for a failed spin-off, which just never happened for the most part. I think the final episode, is before Crisis starts, is great as well. It almost feels like the series finale, not the episode that happened 2 or 3 episodes later. But the opening 3 or 4 episodes and some of the later ones are good enough where it doesn't lose that many points with me, at least for the list, as I think even with its faults, it is still much better than the seasons before and deserves to be in the top 3. Though, I think there's a difference between the first and second spot and this third spot of Arrow's final season. And at number 2 is Stargirl. And I have to say, this first and second spot was much harder to split in the series finale rankings, as I just thought there was a decent gap, not a massive gap, but just okay, that one's clearly better. But with these final seasons, it's hard. And even though they are both in the same placings, it was hard to split them. Stargirl's third and final season, though not intended to be its final season, does feel like a perfect full circle moment connecting to season 1. And without spoiling what happens, just in case you haven't seen it, side note, if you've not seen it, what are you doing? Go watch Stargirl, such a good show. But the final season had a great hook right from the beginning and a mystery that keeps you second guessing right up until the finale, essentially. I think it's the penultimate episode. Well, actually, that's a spoiler if you haven't watched it. So just go watch it, but it keeps you guessing up until towards the end. And as I said, it works as that full circle connection to season 1 and as a closing story for the show, though that wasn't the intention. So it's almost like just a very good series of events that it worked out that way, though the show was short-lived and could have gone on for definitely a few more seasons longer. But so good. Watch this show if you haven't, because the final season, I think, is arguably the best season. I know, whenever I ask people, they're like, oh, do you like, what season of Stargirl do you like the most? Some say 1, some say 2, some say 3. I think for me, 3 is the best season, just because it is very satisfying come the end of it. But I don't know, if you've watched it, you might have a different opinion. And at number 1, not too much of a surprise if you've been playing at home, we have Superman and Lois that takes the top spot, exactly the same as the series finale rankings, and Stargirl was number 2 with the series finale rankings, so 1 and 2 are exactly the same in both of these lists. I guess it's a bit of a spoiler for that ranking if you've not seen that video, but Superman and Lois, its 4th season, its final season, perfect from start to finish in my opinion. At least in regards to what it was aiming for. Obviously, budget constraints were noticeable at certain points, but not in every single episode or every single moment of certain episodes. It didn't impact the overall experience and just sort of what they were trying to do here. I mean, the weakest episode of the final season, which I think is episode 4 or 5, I can't remember which one it is. It's the wedding episode. It's still a really solid episode that plays into the finality of the show as a whole that itself is somewhat, tapped into when it comes to the series finale. But that episode itself is still an enjoyable episode and fun episode to watch, though it's still clearly the weakest episode of the season. And going into this final season, I had my worries and my concerns, like I think a bunch of people did, but I shouldn't really have second guessed them. The cooks were cooking here, if you know what I mean. So good, deserves the number 1 spot, despite Stargirl being a very, very worthy contender for it as well. I just think Superman Lois it just felt more satisfying, though Stargirls is very, very satisfying as well. But I think that 1, 2, and 3 spot, I don't think are debatable. At least I don't think so, unless you're a big fan of one of the other shows that's below them. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and a show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your rankings from 8 to 1, if you've seen all the shows, or just a top 3, or just a rankings of the ones you've seen. Maybe you've only seen 4 or 5 of them. Maybe rank them from worst to best. I'm always curious to read what you guys are thinking and what your opinions are. So let me know in the comment section down below, as well as your opinions on my one. You might be like, you idiot, Flash is in last spot, are you drunk? I know you might have that opinion. Let me know. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.